I think a big challenge for us is that we create our sunglasses with three different segments in mind. And so bridging the gap between how we're talking to those customers as one brand who's making three kind of very different segments of products, and making sure that we're not isolating any of the audiences we want to be reaching, but not being too general either, and still seeming like the experts in all of those areas. Recently, we've started to bring more female sales into line, which was new for our brand, as we've always been a more predominantly male-focused brand. So that was another thing that was a bit new to us and that we knew we needed to improve, was our language and marketing to female consumers as well. Results kind of gave us three key audiences from, what do you call it, the personality type?
Yeah.
Which were adventurer, performer, and disciplined, with adventure and performer being kind of the key two and disciplined being the sort of backup. But it just gave us this amazing base to look at before we did anything. So that went right down to initial brainstorming conversations. It was in my chats, I'm marketing manager, and my chats with our creative director, Simon, about shoots coming up. In terms of the mock-ups we were putting together, the examples given by the Retail Doctor Group were great, because we'd look at kind of the adventure-driven ads from Red Bull or big brands like Yeti and use that as inspiration for how we're talking to our adventurer consumer, and then same vice versa for performer and disciplined. And then for me, putting the assets we created out into the world, it was so useful knowing what channels might appeal to the performer more than the adventurer, etc. We've kind of had a big shift in our creative direction for this year. We've kind of changed our key typeface. We've come up with a new tagline, which is Frame Your Freedom. We've incorporated a lot more movement and kind of aspirational adventures into our storytelling, which has been really well received by our audience. It's just given us a guide, moreover, whereas it was a bit overwhelming before, because we didn't know how exactly was the right way to reach so many different people. And it's just given us a guide, and it seems to really working. In general, everything, given that it was a tough year last year for all retail brands, all of our channels pretty much were positive growth, and last year's where we really focused on making the shift. So I think in terms of helping our brand overall, it's been amazing. It took us a while to find our groove, and then once we found the checklist, like it almost felt like with the first few calls after we had our results, and then you would check in with us every kind of campaign or every few months, which was fantastic, but it almost felt like we hadn't found our groove yet, and then the calls would be a bit not the same, but like we didn't know how to say like, oh yeah, it's working yet. So I don't know how that's a reflection of how we do it differently, but it was almost like important that we really knuckled down as a brand and made those checklists and figured out how to work it for us.
Yeah.
And then working with you, it finally made sense to us. And then we could go back and kind of talk to your brand and have more of a two-way conversation about it, rather than feeling like we were just kind of being told like, oh, do this and then it will be better. Like we actually went away and figured out what it meant to us and connected with it and trialed it. And then it started to really kind of click in.